Welcome back to Midpoint. Former Deputy Chief of Staff to Pennsylvania Governor Tom Ridge, current CEO at Xenophone Industries, or Xenophone Strategies, I should say. David Fuscus joins us. David, let's go ahead and switch to Kansas here. I found this interesting from kansascity.com, the newspaper and the website there. An opinion that Kansas is Republican, but it's not as conservative as some might think. And they're believing that that might be why here, with just a couple of weeks to go before Election Day, everybody is so vulnerable. Certainly Pat Roberts is, Sam Brownback is. Everybody's got a problem here. It seems like Kansas is really going to take this down right to the last second with some questions about how Republican they really are.
You know, Kansas is a deeply red state, but it might be the last bastion of moderate Republicans in the country. And I think these races are going to go down to the wire, both the Roberts and the Brownback races. But in the end, I think they're going to pull it out. Been a big infusion of money on the Republican side, and that's starting to move numbers.
What is it that changed things? Because as I'm looking at some of the tracking here in Kansas, there was a point in August where Davis was way ahead. There was a point in September where Brownback was way low. There was a huge disparity between them, and by huge I mean 3, 4, 5 points, and that's huge on a relative scale. And now all of a sudden they're coming right back to the middle here. Why is it that disparity, that wide Grand Canyon-esque gap, and then all of a sudden it comes back like this?
Well, there's so much attention being paid to these two races, and there's now so much money that's been infused into the state. I think the big change that we've seen from a month ago or 6 weeks ago is large numbers of people in Kansas are paying attention to the race and are really starting to make up their minds. And you can't underestimate what infusions of cash do late in a campaign. Pat Roberts has had $4 million that has come in from outside groups, from the various committees and things, and that turns into advertising, and that gets people's attention, and it gets people to solidify their positions and their support.
You mentioned moderate Republicans in here. Let me get your opinion on this. What is it that moderate Republicans want here in the midterm elections?
It's a good question. I think that what moderate Republicans are mostly interested is in economic growth. You know, with the case of Governor Brownback, they're looking at the fact that he's got this tax cut package that he was assuring them was going to result in jobs growth. It hasn't done that yet, but it's resulted in a deficit. I think it probably will do that in the long run, but it hasn't yet. And people are focused on jobs and the economy. If you look at our recovering economy, the one thing that's not recovering out there is people's income is not recovering. People's income remains flat, and that leads to lots of people having kind of an ambivalent feeling about the economy overall. And that translates into opinions and on the various races that are out there.
I got about a minute left here, so with about 2 weeks to go until we hit the midterms, what's your call on this race?
I think that both Roberts and Brownback are going to pull it off. I have a hard time believing that with a state that never went for Barack Obama at all, that is this deeply Republican, I have a hard time believing that either one of these two are going to lose the election. That being said, they're both very, very tight in the polls, but in the end, I think that both Brownback and Roberts are going to win.
You'll have to admit, though, that Greg Orman, the self-proclaimed centrist who's running against Roberts, he is one of the more interesting stories in the midterm elections this year.
Yeah, he is. There's no question about it. That Orman is very interesting. The whole way the race has developed is one of the most interesting stories in the elections. But I tell you what, I think that Brownback is getting some traction by tying him to President Obama, and that is damaging to him in Kansas. And I think he'll continue to hammer away on his connections to President Obama.
End of the day, that's what they're going to do, isn't it, David? Right down to the last second, the last vote. Everybody's going to keep tying it to the president, right?
Oh, that's the Republican strategy of every Republican across the country is tie their opponent to President Obama, and they'll do it till the last breath of the campaign. And it gets great. It's going to be the electorate's opinion of President Obama is what in the end is going to decide this election. And I think that it's going to end up with a Republican House and a Republican Senate too.
David Fuscus, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks so much. We'll talk again soon.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you.
All right, next hour on Midpoint, the man who would be president, neither Republican nor Democrat. It's coming up right here on Midpoint.